Slurply derp, my G's. So did you guys know that Foley is awesome? And the more that you can move away from using traditional sounds like hats and snares and start relying on using Foley to replace these sounds, the more unique of a track you're going to get. Let's have a little look at this deep minimal tune that I'm just working on just for fun, just for you guys, you know? And so here I'll play a little bit of the intro and then the drop, and you can try and guess what I've used instead of the hats. So as you can probably guess, I used some scissors, right? And basically, I had already this beat with a snare drum on a previous video, but I replaced it and I've put a sort of click in there instead. So I'm doing a click for a snare, which is something you can do as well, you know. But that's my main snare is just a click. And it's layered up with these sort of metallic Foley sounds that I used on a previous project. So these nice little Foley splashes on top of the kick of like metal chains dangling and keys and stuff like that. Yeah, and those have got a nice bit of reverb on as well. It's already in the file. But yeah, that's with the kick. And then I've got this bass running underneath it all. I haven't sidechained it yet. I haven't perfected the mix down, but you can kind of hear it sounds pretty nice together already. And I've put these stabs in as well. They kind of sit on the kick and they have a little bit of a... some offbeat notes that are just a little bit before the kick as well. But yeah, so all of that sounds great, but when I added in these scissors, it really just leveled up the whole beat, you know. So here's how they sound naturally on their own. So basically, I found some samples of pre-recorded scissors, like scissors being recorded with a close mic, just like, you know, opening and closing quickly, and that you get this sort of almost like air like sound effects as well, like a bit of a whoosh, kind of as if you're sort of whooshing a stick in the wind. You know, it's done like sort of quite fast. So there's sort of like yeah, sort of the mic has sort of picked up the movement of the air between the scissors as well. So it has this nice sort of it's kind of sweeping sound to it, you know. And I picked four. So there's, if you recorded the scissors yourself, for example, every recording is going to be slightly different. In my case, in the sample pack, which already had many scissor recordings, I just found four that I really liked, and I looped them to make like a little bit of almost like a little melody with it. So it goes du 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 du. You know, they're slightly different, and yeah, it's a case of placing them around the kick and snare, because you want to be able to hear that kind of scissor sound effect. So, you know, if it's directly on the snare or too directly on the kick, you're not going to really be able to hear it amongst everything else, you know. So I chose to place those sort of scissor hits like in the gaps in between the kick and snare. But what really brings them to life is a bit of processing, particularly by putting on some space blend short reverb. It then sounds like this. So they have this, now they have this. It's like a sort of delayed reverb splash that's really, really short and tight, you know, but it happens actually just after the scissor motion. So it's almost you got this extra delayed kind of part of reverb, and it kind of helps to fill in more of the gaps between the kick and snare. You know, without it, you're missing that extra groove where it sort of all feels a bit late, you know? Creates this kind of sucking motion, you know? So it's really great when you, not only when you use Foley to replace classic sounds like hats, because already you've got loads more interesting texture and, you know, a different sound, but then it's also like, when you color those Foley sounds with reverb in particular different creative ways, that's also going to take you even to the next dimension of like more unique harmonics in your mix, you know? So there we are. I put a few other things on the scissors, a tiny little delay, like 1%. It's really subtle, but it just added a bit of stereo kind of ping pong because I turned the spread up quite high. Okay. And then I've just controlled the level of them all by compressing the whole thing. Because some scissor hits are kind of louder than others, the compressor will just give me more of a balanced volume overall. And then a transient shaper just took off the attack of the sound a little bit, so it's slightly smoother, and then took out some low end as well. Just up to around 300, because there's quite a lot of mid-range in the sample where the mic picked up the sort of air moving from the scissors, so I needed a bit of that still left in for the character. But there you go. Now it sounds great with my beat and my bass here, and especially a nice element that comes in directly on the drop. It's like a new sound that cuts in quite literally through the mixdown straight away, because before I have these sort of classic cymbals in a really reverbed fashion, but then it switches into the scissors, which then take over that kind of cymbal role, you know? So you sort of, by providing something new there, like a new drum layer that's not heard before, and something that's very unique in Foley, it becomes like an instant energy boost on the drop, which is really nice. Later on, I just toyed around with some other Foley sounds, like an airbrush, and it's basically, yeah, like sort of an air canister being sprayed or something like that, just reverbed out. So it's kind of like a white noise splash, but a bit of a more natural one. So I just thought I'd bring those in to like give extra depth in the next part. But yeah, to me that sounds like a really interesting, like minimal DnB dark kind of loop. Has like so much character, because rather than using traditional hats, I've used scissors and Foley sounds to make up the whole beat. I've used clicks, I've used these kind of metallic textures on the clicks, and this little airbrush thing, but most importantly the scissors. I just thought they could create a great variation, or a great, you know, way that you could create some hats that aren't even hats. So why don't you guys try something like this in your next tune? I thought it could be a nice inspiration, not to have to go and have to record scissors, but to find other sounds which are not hats but sound like they could be hats, and use those like instead of hats, and see how it transforms the kind of vibe of your song, because that scissor beat like gave me a completely new vibe, and it actually helped me pick out the bass line that I put underneath it. And I was like, yeah, now it sounds like really... really sharp and choppy, you know? So thank you very much for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed as well to the channel. It really helps me out, because I know that about half of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed, and if you were to do that, it'd be really helpful for me. So thank you very much. Also, may I remind you before I go, if you guys want any production lessons with me, you can book in downstairs via the links down below. You can email me for mixing and mastering work. Come along and join me on Patreon with a great community over there on Discord with group events happening regularly. And finally, as well, if you'd like some sounds, a little bit like the ones you've heard in this demonstration, there's many cool presets on my website for Vital, Phase Plant, Serum 2, and Current. All right, that's it for me today. More from me very soon. Ciao for now. Much love.